our culture is very different. We're small, we're a family. We consider ourselves a family. When you have people who come out of where maybe in some of the other companies you're a number, and they come into us and they really take ownership.
Welcome to the BigTime Podcast, where we have honest conversations with industry professionals who have advice that's right for you.
As former engagement leaders at a Big Four accounting firm, Lori Richards and Michael White knew from experience that too often these large firms would push solutions where none were needed. They saw an opportunity to better serve the needs of clients, so they founded Cooper Richards, an IT and financial risk management firm. On this edition of the BigTime Podcast, Lori and Michael discuss the challenges in building a new firm, including finding those first clients, recruiting partners, and staying competitive. Welcome. I'm your host, Alexander. I'm excited to be joined today by my guests, Lori Richards and Michael White, partners at Cooper Richards, an IT and financial risk management consulting firm. Started in 2008, now a team of 19. Welcome. Good to have you both on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Now, I'd love to dig in, just to begin going back, maybe just from the beginning of the concept of the firm. Help me understand, what did you guys set out to solve for your customers? What are you known for?
I think from the beginning, honestly, we are all ex Big Four. We had all worked within there at various levels. And so coming out of that, we know we had a great idea of what our clients needed, but sometimes are limited by a overall national kind of firm methodology. So I think from our perspective, starting this was really to be able to deliver to our clients products and things that we knew they needed, not necessarily pushing things that they didn't. So I think really focusing in on client need was in the controls arena.
Yeah, I mean, I joined, Lori and Marty about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, but it's some similar things. I mean, I think I was looking for the opportunity to kind of be an owner, kind of be, to have responsibility for helping grow a firm and to be able to do things the way I would like to do them, and I thought they should be done. And similar to Lori, just being able to have the flexibility and freedom to operate in our market or markets and deliver services in the way we'd like to, and not be under necessarily having to follow the guidance or directions of folks outside of that market. So having more, definitely feeling like, hey, we're closer to the ground here. We know what's going on. We can do this and do it well. And not have to deal with some of the oversight from other places.
I think too, bringing in people who have had some past experiences. Some of our hires are coming out of Big Four. It's a very different culture. We do very, very similar work, but our culture is very different. We're small. We're a family. We consider ourselves a family. When you have people who come out of where maybe in some of the other companies you're a number, and they come into us and they really take ownership and really care for the company, then they are doing exactly what Mike is saying in managing, helping manage down, helping improve, helping communicate, which makes our lives so much easier. And we can put them on an engagement by themselves and just say, okay, run with this one. Now,
for you, actually going back to the beginning, taking that leap to start your own consulting business, what made you do that?
I vividly, honestly remember driving home on my last day, leaving PwC going, what in the heck did I just do? I left a very, very good job and I have no clue if this is going to work. And that was actually in 2002 when we very first started the initial company. But it really, truly, for me, was offering clients what they need, not, really having a lot more flexibility in my level to make decisions on what we can and cannot offer. We don't sign opinions, which is very different from where we came from in PwC. They're much more restricted. They have a lot more guidelines that they have to follow. We are here to support the companies that we help. And so that's why I did it, is because I really love the work I do. I just wanted to be more of a consultative, I'm here to help you kind of instead of just audit, just audit for an opinion kind of thing. So I liked the helping part.
More control comes with more responsibility, and
Mm-hmm.
the paycheck comes based off of the projects you're able to bring in and bid.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to that whole conversation there, I'm just curious, how did you, for first clients that you started to work with, how did you bid and get those first jobs?
Honestly, a lot of it still was word of mouth. Some of the true bidding processes that we've gone through, most of it has been, I think our strong suit is when we get a call from somebody, they have a need, we can actually sit in front of them and let's talk through this. Let's work together, and work out that path of how can we help you? How can we utilize your people? How can we make this a better process for you? And so that's really what our strength is, I think, in that we pull from a lot of experience between the three of us. And when we meet with people who are looking for services, that's kind of the better. We're not a big flashy presentation, create a whole big rollout of a slide deck. We don't do a lot of that. But for those clients that we've had to do true RFP type responses, it still has been, we will create those presentations and have those from calls, and compete against some of these other local firms. Again, it comes down to compatibility and personality. Really sitting with those leads who are making the decisions and just having a conversation about what their needs are, very frankly. And there have been proposals or people who have come to us and we will just honestly say, you know what, that we aren't the best pick for you, but we can refer you to somebody who is the good resource, so we're very honest in that if we're not the good fit for them, we're not going to push it through either. So
going from, let's say 10 people or 5-10 people, and then getting up to 19, there's a change that happens as the company continues to grow. What would you say is some of the lessons learned there, or maybe the hires that have made the biggest impact in this growth?
Yeah, I think.
Wow. I think some of the hires that have made a big impact for us are folks who've kind of been able to come in and provide kind of let's call it a middle management level. I mean, folks that where we're able to start to leverage and delegate some responsibilities for client relationships and client team engagement and engagement type things. I think that's enabled us, that's definitely helped, right? So it's not all on the three partners to be able to find some of those folks that are, that have those good skill sets that can lead a team, where it's not all on the three of us. I think that's helped. That's certainly helped from a growth perspective, especially as we went from, let's say, 10 to 19. Lori, Marty, and I would not survive if we didn't have some of those key hires in that growth path.
The concept of the mentality that you have, you're like, I'm internal, I'm here, I'm part of your company, and that accessibility, but also the trust that they trust you. You've built that trust, which is, you can say, hey, I'm trustworthy, but somehow you've been able to do it over time. You just wear them down saying, hey, you can trust me. I'm curious, so can you think of an example or a circumstance where one of your clients was wrong and you had to, how do you work with them and went through a circumstance when they're saying something, but it's not right, and you're having to then work through that?
I mean, that does happen. That happens often. It may not just be the whole client. It may be a specific process owner or control owner or something along those lines. But I think in the instances where I've seen it happen, where I know what is needed from a control perspective, I know what is needed from a, documentation, but getting that communicated across, I think from my perspective, is just the continued discussion of, show me what you're thinking. Now let me explain to you why, not why it's wrong necessarily, because I'm not going to throw back in somebody's face, well, you're just wrong. That's a contentious type, but if you go in and say, well, this is what I would expect, and this is why, and bring in experiences that we have and show this is not just my opinion, but let me give you some background on why my opinion is here and the experiences I've had or evidence of where this has worked or not worked at other situations. I think when we have that, and given the years of experience that Mike has, Marty has, and I have, we do have that to build on, to bring in and have those discussions and help them get through the understanding that we're not just saying it because we like it this way, we're saying it because we have reason.
How would you say the way you manage the business has evolved from the first time when you began it to where you are now, knowing that you have a larger team that you're working with? I'll start off with Lori and then we'll go to Mike.
Okay. Yes, it's very different. When we started, I think we at one point it was 4 of us total. So it is much different now. I think in, at the beginning, it was very much listening to, okay, what does the client need? What does the client need? Now, as you get bigger, I have to look at very much both sides, right? I have to look at what do my employees need? Are they also getting treated well? Because there are instances where we do need to push back on the client and say, hey, we're going to run it this way. And I need, so I think as you get bigger and we get wonderful people working for us, we also need to focus and take care of them as well as our taking care of our clients, so that not only are we sticky on the client side, but we're sticky on the staff side. So I think that's probably what I would notice coming from it being back at the very beginning when there was just 4 of us to now when we've gone up to even over 20 at times when we bring other people in, is really caring for both sides.
Mike, is there anything for where you've seen I guess part of it's coming from the big 4, then coming into the firm, but then continue to grow from there. How have you seen it evolve, even your own role change over time?
I think it's evolved more, again, as we've gotten some good people that we trust to help kind of lead, the direct management or supervision you can kind of step and play a little higher level role. So that has evolved over time since I've joined. I think, we've realized and have learned some things about, given the nature of our work, there's some project management capabilities that need to, and skill sets that need to exist on each team. And whether that's just, tools of, how to build kind of a tracker or some type of tracking mechanism to kind of, here are the tasks or the activities, who's on point for these, what is our deadline and our due dates, and just getting folks, being more formal about that than I think we may have been previously. When you're small, you can do a lot of that word of mouth, right? As you get bigger and have more, I would say, teams in the field, you need to kind of equip and empower them to manage themselves, but they also, as a partner, I want to be able to kind of understand, where are we at, what's going on.
Right.
What's an early indicator where it starts to show you, there's something breaking down here because the team is too big, or there's people that aren't organized enough are in there? Or what are some indicators that you have seen that are kind of warning signals?
From my perspective, I think we see slippage, right, on due dates, and where the staff is just a little lost. To your point, Mike, on those planners.
I would agree with Lori. I think the early indicators for us is we can see the time being spent, but we're not seeing the deliverable necessarily match up with the time. So for us, that's indicating, either they're spinning their wheels a little bit too much and maybe need some direction or should be asking a question, and are, kind of lost, or, so that's where we need to kind of step in and sort that out, or there's something that's not clear in regards to the expectations on that engagement, right?
Right.
Either the due date, what we're trying to do, what the client want. I think that's where we realize we've got stuff that we need to get ahead of.
Gotcha. Let's start with Lori. The question here of how can you name a time where you've kind of felt you've reached a plateau, and that you were kind of stuck and you weren't quite sure, how do you get off of that to the next level?
Oh, from a company perspective, yes, definitely. We I think it was right before we were probably at about 5 people. Mike, I think you were even with us at this time when we were looking to say, hey, we need to grow to just 10 people. Let's make that our goal, and how do we do that? Our biggest tough time is really, do you find the client work first or do you find the really good people first? It is hard if you go out and we hire some great people, but we don't have client engagements to pay these great people, or we get this wonderful opportunity at a client, we have no staff. So it is always a very much of a chicken and egg kind of thing for us. And I think collectively we all sat down and said, okay, we're going to get to 10. And then we pushed and we really hired, and then we got some calls and we made it work. And then we went up another, let's get to 15, let's get to 20. And so it's a consistent approach, but I think our plateau was really before that 10. It was like, oh, we're never going to do this. So it is a little bit of that was a fun time, actually, looking back on that.
Obviously, the people are truly what makes the company and the brand itself. What would you say, though? Just last question here, looking at over the years, what makes you the proudest of your brand and what you built?
I think from my perspective is that starting when we did and stuff what we've been through, I guess, in building this company from beginning and even under a different name and converting into Cooper Richards, I think I'm very, very proud that I think we're very well known. I think from companies here in Denver, big and small, but also from all the external audit firms, they know that if we are partnered with that company, they're going to get quality work papers. We have a good reputation. I think that's probably our reputation. It takes, one bad thing to ruin our reputation. It takes a long time to build it. And I'm very proud that we've been able to sustain it for as long as we have and continue to do that with the people that we have right now.
Well, thank you so much, Mike and Lori, for sharing your insights and the journey that you've been on.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. It was fun.
For more info, go to podcasts.bigtime.net and be sure to subscribe to the Big Time Podcast to get notified when our next episode goes live.